Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and welcome to the channel. Yes, this is the only channel on the interwebs that is TriCast. We do a long-form discussion channel here on Twitch, YouTube, and the audio gets punched out to our own Discord server. You may join any of those as you wish, joining in live or catch the show later on. But more specifically, we've been talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, for all of you that are very, very loyal to the show, you tune in each day. You know, yesterday that I canceled the show. I was just a little bit under the weather. I had my second vaccine shot, the Pfizer shot, and I pushed my way through. Had it on a Monday evening. Pushed my way through on Tuesday, but Wednesday it just knocked me out. So I there was no way for me to. I had set up anything for the channel. I'd probably end up going live like for 5 minutes towards what would essentially be the end of the show. So yeah, just man, it tore me up a little bit, but doing pretty good. Is this the keel that I think it is? I think so. Hey, Rickard, what's going on there? So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. All of you know that the purpose of the channel is to always be inspired by anything and everything, and we take some of the most inane, ridiculous concepts sometimes, and we try to build stories around it. Now, so for me, since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier still has 5 more episodes to go, there's no way we can spoil it, but we can still talk about it. So that's what I wanted to do on the show, and I'll tell you why Thursday is of particular importance to me on the show. Keel 223 says I had the Pfizer shot last week, and thankfully no side effects for me. Sorry, you got knocked out. Yeah, I'm a man of a certain age. Yeah, I've hit I've surpassed the 50 mark, so I'm floating my way on downhill unless we armchair transhumanists can figure out a way to extend our lives past a certain period of time. So I think maybe that might have had a little bit to do with it, and it's random too, with side effects and things. But Thursday, third pillar of exploration. Thursday is of special importance to me, mainly because you guys know that I'm a content creator. There's like 9 books out with the title Cinematic Environs, written with Critical Hit Publishing, and it's over on Drive-Thru RPG. But specifically, it is about the third pillar of role-playing, and with combat and social interaction being the other 2 pillars. And when 5th edition came out, in one of their opening blurbs, they talked about the 3 pillars of gaming. It's basically combat, and of course most role-playing games have some form of conflict resolution. There is social interaction and role-playing. I believe they've shifted it from social interaction to role-playing, since you don't necessarily need to interact with anybody else except the people that you're playing with during any role-playing session. So that's also a thing. But the third pillar, the pillar of exploration, I think is one of the widest and most open ones, but I love it so much. And I think it's the unsung hero. It is the tool that has atrophied in the role-playing tabletop role-playing community, and it's of special importance to me. So I thought we would talk about it. Yeah, Omen. Yeah, I didn't go anywhere. I was accepting my own mind and looking at the back of my own eyelids with body pain. So yeah, but other than that, I'm doing pretty cool. Had my I'm being a person of a certain age. My wife and I like cruising here in the States, going down into the Caribbean. Of course, cruising has been completely shut down for very appropriate reasons, but it is something that we still want to do if and or when it ever returns back to normal and it's safe to do so. So we've got our vaccine shot cards all laminated and everything like that. So Rickard said, yeah, I was wondering about that myself too. Rickard says, first WandaVision, now Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What's next? Snyder cut 1 episode per hour of movie. Yeah. No, we won't be. No, we won't be doing the Snyder cut. It's yeah, I know. If this was a movie review, live movie review channel, which part of me wished that I kind of maybe started the channel that way, kind of, even though the tabletop role playing is the other passion that beats all that out. Yeah, that actually would be awesome. Yeah, it's 4 hours long. It's the movie's a little indulgent, but it's not boring. It's just like I think you could have cut a good half hour out of it. So that's just me. Yep, 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 yep. 357. Yeah, it's out there. Okay, so um, as you guys may know from the thumbnail and what's written below here is exploration locations. And what I love to do is figure out what are some of the really cool things that we can do that we can foreshadow for our players when we're designing our adventures and build it around the locations that we want to have happen. Now, we love to take ourselves some tropes, whatever the tropes may be, whether it's fantasy, science fiction, or whatnot. But I think espionage and black ops tropes are perfect for finding really great and dynamic locations to have some of your players go through adventures, or at least to suggest some of those. And while this may not be specific to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, although I will bring up some specificity, these are the kind of things that I think, like putting them in your back pocket to basically say to you, to the people engaging in your setting, like, guess what? I'm going to make some hints, and if you guys pull on these little like hooks and stuff like that, we're definitely going to have some fun. So, one thing that happened in the two parts of an action scene that happened in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you'll see in a lot of espionage, black ops, mercenary, military, political intrigue with which has some action in it, like assassinations and whatnot. You'll see a lot of these things happen, and two of them happen in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. One was, of course, the Falcon. He's got his training with his wings, and he's flying through the air. So of course, there's going to be some kind of aerial combat. Now, especially those of us that use lots of theater of the mind, and if you are someone who loves using miniatures, it can be difficult to do three-dimensional spaces, heights, and also using chases. It can be difficult to imagine them, but I say to you, video games are actually an excellent example of how to do chases and dynamic movement in a tabletop role-playing setting. So, and follow me down this mental imaginative river here. A chase scene, especially with larger vehicles, helicopters, planes, and this is what happened with Falcon. Falcon's trying to go after a rescue someone, and there's bad guys that have like they have attack helicopters, and of course there's spaces inside the helicopters where you can have some conflict and such. You have the danger of the rotors, and of course there's like machine guns and missiles going. But a chase, in many ways, is just a side effect of having moving, solid, non-moving locations. All right. So when you have two vehicles driving down the road, or three planes flying through the air, or two helicopters going after each other, try to imagine them not moving at all. Right. So the background of it is just flavor. The speed that you're moving, the curves in a road, the what you really want to concern yourself with is how far away are the two solid surfaces, and then what side effect happens if you fall off of the solid surface. So it doesn't matter if they're two sailing ships. It doesn't matter if there's a sports car and an 18-wheeler. It doesn't matter if you're on horseback and there's a wagon being pulled by 6 horses or something, or someone's on a riding on an elephant and they need to jump onto hobgoblins riding on the back of axe beaks. The speed that they're moving, the terrain you're moving over, that's a danger element, but it's really not that important. What you really need to know is what skill check do I need to make to move from one place to another, and then figure out how cinematic, or gritty, or realistic it is for someone to hang on the edge of a moving train, or jump from their riding horse onto a wagon that's out of control going through the desert of Arizona or something, right? So what happens is, much like Indiana Jones taking his whip and getting, punching people in the throat and then getting knocked off of a vehicle and using his whip to be dragged along the back of it, those are just skill rolls. Those are just, maybe you apply a D8 types of damage for bludgeoning, for being dragged across the ground, or your PC is in one Black Hawk helicopter and you want to jump into the other attack helicopter that's along the way and dodge away from the machine gun fire or something. Well, while it sounds really dramatic, those are just combat rolls and attack rolls and skill rolls. Now, if someone fails a roll in that kind of thing, realistically, air quotes, most people would just die, right? Fall off a train, you're dead. Jump off of a speeding sports car in the middle of traffic in a major city, dead, right? But these are action heroes. So, if it's a save or die situation, you're running a realistic game, and your players should know that. A gritty type of reaction to something like that, you should at least give at least one additional die roll to saving throw to save themselves from whatever event it is. So jumping from one attack helicopter to another, and they miss that athletics check, give them another roll. Athletics, maybe an acrobatics check or something to grab onto the landing gear. That's always very common to hang on to with in an action scene with a helicopter or something. Or I don't know, if you have luck in your game, let the luck roll happen and a piece of their clothing catches onto some kind of outcrop or something, and they're dangling by a thread or whatever, or they're dangling by their fingertips. Just give them a second roll. Now, if you want to be extremely cinematic, then I would allow at least 3 saving rolls to save themselves from ultimate death. So maybe that athletics check to jump from one helicopter to another fails. Okay, the second might be a strength or a dex check to hold on to the running landing tongs, whatever you want to call those, the landing sled underneath the helicopter. And if that doesn't work, then maybe like a luck roll or something to be for people to look down and see that piece of your jacket or something got caught onto an outstretched piece of metal, or your wrist gets caught into the Gatling guns hanging on the side of it or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, you guys talked about the Snyder Cut. Yeah, Deadman says the Lord of the Rings trilogy comes to 11 hours and 36 minutes. Yeah, and we didn't mind that either. There's nothing. There's a landing skids. Yeah, landing. Why? Doing these live shows, I always get like verbal diarrhea. So it happens. Yeah, Rickard says flying is just a way to get some or any penalty related to ground effects at the cost of falling off, you take damage. Exactly. So yeah, to get some falling off if you take damage. And here's the thing, like what we want is we want to insert the idea that there is a lot of danger, but portray the game. The heroes don't know that they're not going to die. Okay. And so your players may not know that they're not going to die, but you want to have that danger happen. Now, mind you, if someone fails to jump from one helicopter to another, you have a couple of options. You can just say, okay, you fall terminal velocity and you're dead because you're moving at 280 miles an hour or something like that, or so many kilometers an hour or something, you die. Or you jump across, but you fail, your arm gets you link into the landing skid, and you maybe suffer some kind of damage, or maybe some kind of exhaustion, or maybe some kind of stun effect, or you don't apply that at all. You just narratively describe the event of the person doing the thing somewhat failing in it and getting a complication thereof when they semi-successfully do the thing that they wanted to do. So aerial combat is very common in these kind of things. You have a small space, each person punching each other, trying to kick each other. Of course, someone's going to try to kick somebody out of the vehicle. Usually there's some nameless person who gets shot in the back of the head who's piloting a thing, and then it goes out of control, i.e. making it even tougher to make those athletics and acrobatics checks as the helicopter careens and moves. Maybe smoke starts pouring out of it, of course, or maybe some kind of oil starts spilling out, or we get a scene of a bullet hole going through the gas tank and it starts spewing out fuel. So there's a possibility of an explosion. And so we can use those things as tension creators, right? That's the thing where hey, you thought this was going to be more dynamic than you thought it would be dynamic. The players really aren't engaging in it. And you're like, man, I don't, how can I ramp this up? And this is why I love the idea of foreshadowing the environment, because when you need it, it's available to you at all. Like me discussing this with you, you already know what I'm talking about because we've already seen this before. Sure, it's a trope, but how easy is it for you to bring that across to your players? Oh, and a bullet goes through the gas tank and it starts spilling fuel. We all know that there's going to be a spark or something that might ignite it on fire. Maybe a bad guy grabs a flare, a flare or something that they're going to try to use, or you're careening through some kind of very narrow gully, flying at tremendous speeds, and you might bounce off the walls or something. So essentially, we know these tropes so well that when you decide to flip the switch and bring that into the game instead of moving it from narrative to like a mechanical effect, we're already on the same page. And that's why I love this kind of stuff. Rickard says basically you get the ranger's ability to ignore ground effects, but you stop flying and start falling if you take damage, unless you're levitating, but then you can't move instead. Exactly. And you know what? We have to be open-minded enough to allow the players to very creatively solve the problem. Like if a wizard casts levitate, which essentially very slowly lets them go basically vertical up and down, and the wizard decides to hold on to a airship, does that reduce the wizard's body weight to like nil, so they can be carried along very easily by a sailing ship or a griffin or something? Then you have to say to yourself, yes, no, like does levitation force a person into an elevator that they can't be moved, or does it reduce their weight and they can get pulled along like a balloon or a kite or something? I don't know. I would just go sure because it sounds fun, but each of us would have to make that determination. Yeah, like Rickard says, all that to say, GMs, don't be too afraid of flight. Right, exactly. Like if you have a ranger, I suppose if you wanted to do an aerial world, you could allow a ranger who has a propensity for a specific environment to make it aerial and have aerial rangers. I'm sure many winged creatures would have aerial rangers and have their ability to ignore the ground effects, except those ground effects are aerial effects. Or you could substitute like a ranger whose place is aerial can ignore the effects of falling to the ground because they're always agile enough to remain in the air. If that makes it. Anyway, I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but I think you get my point, and I think you get Rickard's point too. Yep. Man, but then the other thing about like a chase scene or vehicles moving through the ground, like let's say there's all the players are like riding on the back of griffins or axbeaks or hippogriffs or wyverns or something, or pterodactyls, and they're trying to jump from one to the other, or there's a lot of aerial combat and maneuvering and such, is to don't punish the players for engaging in it more so than you have to, because it'll be a Pavlov's dog reaction where, oh, my rogue wants to jump off the rope bridge onto the pterodactyl flying kobolds, but you had me roll. There was more penalty for me jumping off of the rope bridge to jump onto the back of the pterodactyl than it was for me to take cover and just use backstabbing, right? No, oh yeah, Axbeaks are flightless. I was thinking of land travel, like riding on the back of ostriches or something. Yes, Axbeaks are flightless. Or we could say Axbeaks are they're not flightless. They just hit the ground at the same speed everybody else does. Because it's a possibility you could take an Axbeak off a cliff too. Not that they would want to, but yeah, it would be fun. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Aragorn was fighting on the back of a warg and got his ankle caught in a stirrup, and they both went sliding off into a raging river, off a cliff into a raging river, right? So there are chases where you can have baddies fighting each other and things like that. Yeah, Rickard says. Besides, flight more often ends up splitting the party, so they have to fight divided. That does, yeah, flight does split the party, or actually most chase scenes can do that when you have a major party, because the minute someone stops or fails in the chase, falls off the train or the wagon, or they're holding on for dear life to the Axbeak's neck while they're trying to ride or whatever, right, across the landscape. The minute someone falls off and lands on the ground and everyone's speeding ahead of them, they're split, which is why you want the threat of that happening, but you really don't want it to happen. You want someone's leg to get caught in a stirrup. You want the Indiana Jones whip to latch on to the undercarriage and get them dragged along. You want them dangling by their fingertips, or their cloak caught into some kind of protrusion hanging off of something. You want that to happen. Now, it may be difficult for them to recover themselves, but this also allows us to do the difference between damage and effectiveness, right? So, yes, again, the heavy hitter in the group can kill one ogre at a time in one fell swoop. Boom, boom. One hit, roll the hit, bam, that one's dead. Roll the hit again, boom, one dead, right? But the rogue and bard in it, well, I won't say rogue, I'll say bard and sorcerer in a group who don't have the same combat abilities might just be as effective if they can kick a ogre off of a airship, or trip the hobgoblin, or punch the hobgoblin in the throat and knock them off their Axbeak riding or warg or something, right? So effectiveness and damage are cousins of each other. They're in the same Venn diagram, in the sense that, no, my halfling can't deal out the same damage as the paladin smiting people, but I'm just as effective if I get to stand behind the ogre's legs and have them trip and fall off of the, I don't know, the elemental train in Eberron and fall to their death, or at least, heck, just fall off of the moving obstacle in the first place, left behind, i.e. they're no longer in the fight, right? Even though I didn't even do any damage, all I did is do a push or shove maneuver, which, again, I always make the case that Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games where people say, well, pushing or shoving a creature is useless. And I'm thinking, sure, if you have nothing to push or shove them into, right? But if you're Indiana Jones fighting the person who's tougher than you, and you punch them in the chest and he laughs at you, but you have a flying wing rolling around the land and there's blades spinning that can kill you if you get caught in it, then distracting the big bad guy to get his body sliced up into the propeller blades makes you very effective, even though there's very little damage you could do to your enemy, Rickard says, player says, oh, we need to cross this chasm. I'll just fly over to the other side with a rope to secure it for the rest of the group to get over. And Rickard says DM says, sure thing. Just ignore the convenient ambush waiting on the other side. Yeah, you do. We we need to leave space for the creativity, but we also need to put a little bit of a challenge in it, right? Like maybe it doesn't make any sense that the party can run across a rope bridge before the bad guy gets to chop the ropes on the other end with an axe, but you might want to give them an opportunity to do it. So yeah, a player's like, hey, I can fly over to the other side and secure a rope, but maybe making it a little difficult for them to secure that rope because of an ambush, because they're by themselves. Maybe someone with the ranged attacks who did, the elf in the group with the elven archer in the group that's like really good, who didn't get a chance to shine. Now they're on the other side of the chasm, but they get to snipe the evil baddies that are trying to go after the flying character who's on the other side, who's basically by themselves getting ambushed. So just being able to do that. Now, here's the second one that and this happens a lot in Espionage and Black Ops. Love myself some balconies, steps, elevator shafts, spiral slash, uh, I'm going to call them square spiral staircases. The For those who don't know, in the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we had Falcon doing the flying thing and rescuing someone, which, by the way, sorry, back to the Falcon, rescuing someone, he had the added problem of being chased while giving chase, and he had to rescue an individual, i.e., we the win condition isn't beating up all the bad guys. The win condition is rescuing a detainee. So he also had to worry about making sure that, sure, could he shoot the helicopter out of the sky and blow it up? Yes, that would make it much easier. But instead, he had to go inside and punch people out, kicking them out of the helicopter to try to get the person who's tied up and handcuffed and rescue them. So this allows us to have yet another complication of a person that needs to be rescued. You have enemies that are not necessarily trying to kill the bad guy, but to snatch away their kidnappee, and he needs to make sure that he has to grab them and then escape while he's also being attacked. So that allows us to have that other complication and yet another win condition. The win condition being, I don't want to die in a helicopter out of control. I need to rescue this person. It's not important for me to punch people in the throat any longer. So now we go to the Winter Soldier, Buchanan, which I call him Bartholomew, but whatever. Maybe he doesn't look like a Bartholomew, but Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is in his full working for Hydra, killing and murdering and stuff, and he has a fight in one of these old-timey looking hotels with the square spiral staircases. You know what I'm talking about when I say square spiral, where it's not round, but it's square, but the stairs, non-eschery, the stairs go up in a square box. Sometimes that square box has an open gated elevator in the middle. Sometimes it's just open and falls straight down to the bottom floor. So you have a lot of, and of course we saw this kind of fight happen in Civil War when Cap went to go find the Winter Soldier. And so you have a lot of height. You have the danger of falling. You have tight spaces along with open spaces combination going on. You have hotel rooms where of course, the Winter Soldier punches through a wall, the drywall, and snatches somebody out by their throat. You have people hiding behind doors, turning around hallways and jumping off of balconies. And so I love lots of heights, lots of long hallways and spaces, maybe places to hide. You have innocent bystanders maybe in the way that could be used as a meat shields, or if you're more sadistic, or they can be used as difficulty shooting around the innocent bystanders in the first place. Maybe even offering some sorts of bonuses to the player characters for trying to avoid the straight up murdering innocent people that happen to be in the way, those kind of things. Rickard says, say the ambush waits until the rest of the party is halfway across. So the so the flight character must protect the rope, give the rope, say, 10 hit points, and the attackers are minions dealing 1 hit point damage if they reach it. Exactly. And look, right there, I'm sure you instantly thought of that off the top of your head there, Rickard, where you're saying, like, all right, well, the ambush waits until the party's halfway across the rope bridge. Well, of course they're going to wait till they're halfway across because that makes sense, right? And our adversaries, not all of them are smart, but the ones that are smart are going to do the smart thing. And sure, we know our usual goblinoids, right? Some of them aren't the smartest or the toughest, and they tend to be cannon fodder. We know that. But this makes them more effective. So they're going to wait for an ambush. That's what an ambush is. So if half the party's across the rope bridge and the flying character has to, like you say, protect the party, and the rope has 10 hit points, and each minion is doing 1 hit point of damage to the rope bridge, well, what's the most important thing? Getting across the rope bridge? Yes. Stopping the nameless minions who are doing 1 hit point each round, and when they get to that 10th hit point, the rope breaks? Yeah, because what are hit points? Hit points are it's just a timer. It's it is a hit points is are a numerical mechanism to show how much time you have left to be effective in any circumstance, right? I mean, we think the word hit points sounds like you're being hit and you're losing those points, but hit points, I should do a whole episode, or maybe hell, we could even probably do a week on semantics. If we renamed hit points something else, it probably would come across to us in a much better manner. If we used, I'll say Blades in the Dark again, we use Blades in the Dark stress mechanic, or exhaustion, or luck, or drive, or willpower. If we renamed it something else, heck, you could just straight up call it cinematic action. When you run out of your cinematic action, you're taken out of the action. I think in Fate they have a mechanism where you suffer stress, and when all your stress is gone, you are capital words taken out. And that taken out could be anything. You're knocked out, you disappear, you turn back into a frog, you are hypnotized, you are summoned to another dimension. It's whatever you 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 disappear mysteriously or something like that. you know. Yep. Rickard says it's not about how challenging the combat is. It's about how cool the scene would be. You know what? And see that's the other thing too, right? Like, take an unremarkable open field and hobgoblins, and your players are fighting these fantasy hobgoblins. And the elven archer shoots a couple of hobgoblins. You roll some damage, and you shoot them with your arrows. 2 arrows, great. Oh, yawn. Sorry, got bored there for a minute. Sorry. Okay, but take those same bad guys with pickaxes or something. Not pickaxes, regular logging axes. Sorry. And the hobgoblins have been chopping down the dark wood, and the players are shooting the hobgoblins as they're trying to hack away at the rope bridge. And every time they hack a piece of the rope, we do the, come on, cinematic ripping of rope, where it's braided and one of the braids pops and the rope bridge starts to like shift a little bit, and the players are like, whoa, and they're like, do I have to make an acrobatics check? You're like, no, not this time. But you do feel it list to the side as one of the ropes starts to snap or whatever, and you see that scene, and you see the arrow fly through the air as the archer takes out yet one more hobgoblin who falls to his death, and another hobgoblin screams and picks up that axe again and starts to hack at it. That's the cinematic part. That's the tension. That's the whole point. So when it comes to espionage and black ops, where we have people like, for example, trying to see, you created the situation, not me. That's not my fault. But that's what goes in my head when I'm hearing about it. That's why it was like, cool. Yeah, that makes it cool. That makes it awesome when something like that happens. It's why we Indiana Jones so often is a parallel for tabletop role playing games, because I feel like it is a prime example of I feel like it's a prime example of instituting, like, we don't fighting minions is a side effect. What we want is it to be cool when fighting the minions. We want the minion to get knocked off of the wagon and get trampled by the horses as it rolls over the bad guy. We want to dangle by our fingertips on the side of the elemental lightning rail in Eberron, while we try to pull ourselves inside of the train, while there's a evil cabal of cultists who are trying to protect the black skull of Nazareth the undead or something, and they're running up and down the train car to train car as the players are running across the top of the rail, and another one's being dragged across the bottom of the rail with fairy fire, rippling across their body as the lightning rail moves at these hyper speeds across the landscape or something. We want that to happen, and by giving us space to work with those things, I think is really cool to do. Now, something else that happens in other here's another tension thing that happens in a lot of espionage and black ops is remaining hidden, quiet, stealthy. Now there are video games that do this where you like what's an old game, Deus Ex Machina is a version I'm thinking of that I have where you can sneak around and snipe people and the bad guys. We've seen this before, right? Sneak up behind bad guy who's semi-distracted, take the guard, put hand goes over mouth of guard, other hand takes dagger / knife / whatever, and the neck gets broken, dagger goes into the throat, person gets dragged behind cover, someone maybe steals their outfit so they can hide. We've seen this before. So what's the tension involved in it? Sure, you can very easily kill people, but you got to do it quietly. Now, the stakes are, especially for player characters, well, why would I want to do it quietly since I'm a badass? Well, you set up ahead of time. Hey, if you draw attention, you're going to draw an exponential amount of guards to your location. Like, for example, let's say there's one guard and you're just like, I'm going to take my Gatling gun, or I'm going to take my big old battle axe and kill the guard who screams out in pain. All right, now maybe 2 guards are coming, then there's 4, and then there's 8 and 16, and maybe they get tougher and they bring it, so if the player, and you can foreshadow this very easily, tell one of the players, you know that if you're loud, you're going to summon guards and guardians that are going to exponentially just try to stomp on people trying to break in to go after the Dark King. Nazareth the Dark is going to send troops. Okay, well, maybe there's a reason why you need to be quiet or hide or sneak. And we love ourselves going through sewer systems, waist deep in nasty sewer systems with stuff floating in the water, but we don't want to touch it because we know it's some kind of bodily waste or whatever. We love sneaking through HVAC systems, air conditioning and heating vent systems, because there's always some available that are just wide enough to wiggle your shoulders through. We love hiding behind tapestries or doing the pressing your arms and legs up into the rafters and watching the bad guy sneak underneath you and then drop down and beat their asses and stuff. And so opening up so that we can, for creating the tension of the thing, like, oh, you can have 2 attacks, but listen, if you want to stay quiet, you're going to have to use one of your actions to make a stealth check to remain quiet. And you're like, ooh, oh, okay, so I'm going to have to, if I don't, I'm going to be loud. Yep. And you're going to draw the Nazareth Dark Guard and Shadow Demons and whatever you want to throw out there, right? And you're like, okay, well, I guess that is the problem then. So, or maybe the loud character's like, hey, I'll make a distraction and I'll be Billy Badass and I'll make a distraction to the west while the other players sneak around to the east. And then again, win condition, right? What is the win condition? Is it to steal the dark skull of Nazareth, the black or something? Of course it is. Or is it to stop the cultists from reenacting the ritual that'll bring them back to life or back to undeath? Of course it is. Or is it, I don't know, destroying the gem or blowing out the candles that are set up or whatever? Create this other win condition where the players have to get from A to B or stop the thing in a certain amount of time, or um, a very common espionage thing. Uh, Espionage success is not just getting in, it's getting in, getting the MacGuffin, getting back out, right? And so, sure, a character can beat ass all day long, but if the goal is to get out before sunrise, or get out before the castle crumbles, or get out before Nazareth, the undead, or the Nazareth the Black becomes a demi-lich or something, then maybe that's the important thing. So Rickard says, and a character fighting off 15 minions trying to hack the rope while the rest of the party tries to scurry across. Sounds like a cool scene from a martial arts movie to me. Yep, exactly. Hey, we need to engage the bad guys so they don't hack at the rope so the players can get from one side to the other. Or maybe the players are doing all the badassery while they're protecting an important entourage. Maybe there's a noble. The noble princess is going to be coronated and becoming the queen mother, or whatever the case might be, and the players need to keep these people alive. They're not the combatants. They got to get across the rope bridge. So maybe the players don't care if the rope bridge gets hacked because they have the ability to cross the dangerous chasm, but the innocents that are going along with them is quite important. Maybe it's something as simple as ensuring the rope bridge doesn't get caught because the people in the community need to get across the thing to get food and supplies and stuff back home. We how many protect the caravan adventures have started this way, you know? Rickard also says coordination is also a thing. Use initiative as a skill challenge. Okay, you just brought up something that I think is so undersold. All right, so Dungeons and Dragons. You roll a d20, you add some modifiers. Let's go with GURPS. Roll 3d6 and you add some modifiers. Call of Cthulhu. Percentile dice. Here are some modifiers. But we tend not to look at skill rolls, saving throws, and initiative, which is an ability check. Initiative in Dungeons and Dragons is an ability check, just as if you were making a strength or dex or intelligence ability check. Initiative is an ability check. And it very much could absolutely be put into a who does the orc hack the rope first, or do you grab the orc's wrist first? Well, how do you know who's there first? Now, you could do it a very boring way and go, well, we're just going to do it in initiative order, which I'm like, yawn. Or you could do it with an ability check, which is an initiative versus initiative. And it's an initiative challenge. Who gets there first? Both people roll. Hey, I'm the GM. I rolled with bone 12. Beat that 12. And you're like, well, my rogue's going to beat that. I'm like, all right, we'll see. Did you make it? Of course, with your +8 or whatever. Yeah, of course you make it. But we don't tend to, or it's not encouraged the way the rules are designed, that a skill check and an attack roll have the same importance, that a sleight of hand check or a deception check has the same impact on hey JP, has the same impact on the events that are happening as a damage roll. But why not? Why can't we let that happen? And no, we don't have damage checks for sleight of hand rolls. But if you're trying to tie a knot on the rope of the rope bridge that just got cut, that sleight of hand check might be just as important as making yet another roll with a short sword. You know, Rickard says the group on the ground needs to take out the guards on the ground at the same time as the flying character takes out the guard in the tower. The challenge is to get initiative as close to each other. Um, what's a good example of this? The first thing that comes to mind is Saving Private Ryan. For those who have seen the third chapter of the third chapter of Saving Private Ryan, you know that they set up an ambush, and so you got Tom Hanks and the whole group, and there's a character in the Saving Private Ryan who's a sniper, and he's up in the tower, and he's firing down, and there's a tank, and you see the tank moving, the I don't know what it's called, the howitzer or whatever, the my brain just farted on me. The cannon is moving around to the sniper's nest, and we see in our heads the timer going off. He's taking off one more shot, and another shot, and another shot, and he kisses his cross, and boom, and you're just like, mofo, will you get out of that tower? But he's, as a player character, do I take another shot? I'm gonna stay up here for one more round and take two shots. You sure? Yeah. Yeah, he who strikes first wins, JP says. Yep. Yeah, goes on to say, who doesn't love the first move advantage, right? And we don't know how important that is, right? And being the first might be far more effective than being the person who does the most damage. Like, how many times have we seen in our espionage movies where the MacGuffin is in a precarious location, and the hero and the villain both put their eyes on the MacGuffin, and they both have to get there. You know what I'm talking about. It could be a key to lock or unlock something. It's, of course, a loaded gun while both of them are wrestling. And we all know whoever's got the gun in their hands gets to blow the other person away. It could be someone's handcuffed and they're dangling, and there's a chain, cable, rope, and it's starting to fray. Let's go back to the rope bridge, right? The rope bridge is starting to fray. Do you roll? You're Billy Badass. Do you make another attack roll against the enemy, or do you run over and grab the dangling rope before the rope bridge completely unravels and you grab onto it because you're the strongest player, and the rest of the entourage has to get across the rope bridge while you stand there wrapping the rope around your forearm, holding onto it, being a brace for it, knowing that there's enemies that might strike you from behind or try to knock you off the cliff and whatnot. So what I'm getting at here is we can set up 1,000,001 encounters where all it is players turn the corner, they see bad guys roll attack or initiative, and we just go back and forth and we play the game of attrition. But what we want to do is allow the narrative a place to grow and give alternate win conditions. Is it doing something in a certain amount of time? Is it getting to a certain place? Is it preventing a thing from happening, crossing that raging river, and someone gets pulled down the river because the pressure of the river? Do you put your hand out to try to keep the dwarf from drowning, or do you cast yet another fireball spell and let your player character dwarf get pulled down into the river rapids, drowning in their plate armor or something, right? So Jared Piedmont says, I guess with espionage, it's often a DEF CON like situation. Yep. Where the first person to make a move triggers the flashpoint event. You want to have all your ducks lined up before that point, which goes back up to Rickard's point about everyone being at the same time. Because we've seen, it's called the Mexican standoff. No offense to Mexicans being related to standoffs, but the point of everyone's got guns pointed at everyone. Now, mind you, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could be someone's got their hand near the red button, or someone has a flame with something that's ignitable in their hand, or there is a again there is there's a timer happening and everyone is looking at each other waiting for the first person to make the move, right? And but anyway, JP goes on to say, and on the flip side, you want the enemy to be caught with their pants down, waiting for that first move while those conditions align is what makes for an exciting scene. Exactly. Like, how many times have we seen guards are looking around and they're on hyper alert, and the hero's like hiding in the shadows, and they're like, "What's going on?" And then one guard is like, "Man, I'm gonna go get a smoke. All right, well, I'm gonna go to the west. You go to the east." And then he's like, "Okay." So the guards um are that are hyper aware, they go to the west. And then the one that goes to the east is like pulls out the cigarettes or opens up a cell phone or goes and pulls his pants down and tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. And then so it lines up, right? Like Kyle 223 says, mutual deterrence. Like, yes, we know we can beat the ass of the bad guys, but we all know that they're going to bite down on a suicide capsule and die with the cyanide, or one of them, we don't know which one, is going to hit the button to activate activate the DEFCON system that that JP brought up. So we don't want any of that to happen, but we need to time it so that certain events happen. And now, mind you, we can start adding in things like deception, like someone knocks on the door. To how many times have we seen the line up the bad guy so the sniper can hit the bad guy in the back of the head, right? Um, I don't. Hey, I'm lined up with my rifle, but I don't have a shot. Okay, I'll get him. Someone negotiator on the phone. Listen, we've got pizzas coming. Okay, and the person walks over to the door in front of the window. Great, I've got a shot. And then what happens? Heroes break through window. Sniper shot goes off and busts somebody in the back of the head. Somebody else kicks in the front door, breaks open the locks. Maybe someone is captured inside who undid their zip ties or handcuffs, but hasn't made a move yet, is waiting for the sign to take action. And of course, they break out and start leg tripping and choking somebody out. It's all that stuff. And that is brilliant. Like, I'm getting excited now, and I don't even know what game we're playing, but I'll play it. Y'all, I'll break out the dice. You get the rules, and I'm ready. Let's make lots of TTRPGs fun. You've got the dice. I've got the character sheets. Rickard says another scene, fighting on a bridge high up between spires that lacks guardrails. Here we go with the OSHA rules. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration is never around these places. Anyway, a combatant with flight will make that combat more interesting, picking up enemies in flybys and dropping them. Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. How about the cool I tackle bad guy off of the no guardrail spire, and then as we fall, I also use one hand to grab onto the outstretched spike that, of course, we didn't see when they went off the edge, but of course the hero grabs onto it. Or we've seen this before: bad guy or good guy dangling off of high location with either adversary or protagonist dangling off of other said person who's also dangling off of said thing, right? So bad guy dangling with fingertips, hero holding on to the foot of the bad guy, both of them dangling off of this tall thing, right? Can the hero just shoot the bad guy in the chest? Yeah, but why would you do that? They're the ones who's holding on for dear life, right? Or the hero's dangling for dear life and the villain's holding on to their boot. And what do? You pull your string out of your boot to let them fall to their death, right? Or at the same time they're both doing that, they're both reaching for the doomsday device that's got the red blinking light on it, or maybe there's a timer counting down on it, and they're both trying to reach for it, but they both know, okay, we both need to use both hands. The first person to use one hand can get kicked off by the other person. I mean, come on, this is all classic espionage, black ops, um, special forces, and mind you, you don't even need to do it that way. This could just be classic fantasy, dangling off the edge of the spire with the walkway between the two, or the balcony. And like you said, characters that fly can easily shine in those circumstances. Now we all know that the limitation of flight, of course, is you become the target. But maybe the player who wants to play the Aarakocra, if because I'm pronouncing it Aarakocra, uh, who wants, or like Aaron, I want to play an Aarakocra. But anyway, the person who wants to play the Aarakocra is like, hey, I will be the target by doing flybys and knocking people off the edge. Of course, this could be used against the player characters too, who have to go across the spire because now Fax, the dark skull, is going to be reanimated by the cultists in the left spire, and they're already in the right spire. They have to go across the open bridge with no handrails, and the pterodactyl riding kobolds are sweeping past. Yep. Rickard's like, health and safety, not in my D&D game. Yeah, keep your government policies out of my D&D. Getting a little political there, yeah. Oh yeah. Health and safety's for everyone. You can't tell me what to do. Rickard goes on to say, I wonder what health and safety would say about installing spike traps in the anarchist laboratory or the guild building with arrow pressure plates. Yep, somebody's got to inspect those. Player characters are like, we're going to I got a great adventure. All right, what are you going to do? I want to play a fighter. I want to play a wizard. Nope, you're playing an inspection team to make sure all the traps are operating correctly, because we don't want anybody getting, I don't know, what do you get from a rusty nail or something? You got to take your shots because we got to make sure the pit traps are fine. Recoat the poison dart because somebody's got to do it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Didn't think I'd have anything to talk about, but as always, we always reach into our ass and pull something out, and that's going to be the cool thing. A subject came up. Two things before we get out of here. So let me just end on this preamble. The one thing that is the one thing that someone brought up in as a question was, is there still space left for save or die? Is there space left in role-playing games for the unstoppable, unalterable outcome? The make a save or die, the never surprised, the ultimate, not ultimate, but unchanging effects, whether they are on the player side or the GM side. I think there's space for it, but I think there's space for us to even talk about it. And so there's a little more theory. That being the case. Lastly, guys, do me a favor, and actually I'll put it here. Level up 5E. Oops. Here, I'll do it like this. Boom. Guys, please go over to levelup5e.com. Level Up is a Kickstarter that's I'm part of the creative team. I'm just a small cog in a larger machine of creating advanced 5th Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, N-World is going to have a huge Kickstarter that's coming up. I was brought on as part of the exploration team to create the exploration pillar, which now has a page count that's probably as beefy and as intricate as the combat section. So please go over to Level Up 5E, sponsored by N-World of the of the Insider and N World magazine and all that good stuff. So please go over there. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much. Thanks for tolerating my absence yesterday. Guys, have a great one, and thanks for watching. I'll see you later.